Hey everybody, you're not going to believe what I've been doing the last 15-20 minutes. I've been looking for a filter that sort of suits what we're trying to accomplish today. And I'm using a Samsung phone. And as many of you know, they recently pushed out an update. And I guess with the update, it changed the settings and it sort of enhanced several features on the Samsung. So I got to the office at 10:25 because I did inform you that I'd be live at 10:30. So for the past 15 minutes, I've been scrolling through the filters here in the camera app. And I tell you, it's been one big hot battle because I'm thinking this filter's not going to work, you know. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, do you like this filter? It's a filter, you know, because, you know, these days you can't just show up raw. I mean, very few people can show up raw. I'm not one of those people. I need a bit of help. Okay, because what I want at the end of the day is I need you guys to be able to sit there and listen to me at least for 10-15 minutes. The great Billy Graham used to preach for about 20 minutes max. Within 20 minutes, he had his whole sermon and everything outlined. And so I wanted to, first of all, ask you, okay, Emily says it's good. Thank you. What do you think of this filter, guys? It's a bit enhanced. I think the colors are a bit bright. Okay, but hey, it's better than no filter, I think. Somebody says we missed you. Welcome back. Well, thank you so much. Also, I need to find out from you. I need to hear if are you able to hear me? Am I loud and clear? Can you get me from the lavalier mic? Because I love to be able to speak to people from the lavalier mic. So please tell me. And then also, I got two pairs of glasses here. I need you to help me. Do you prefer these glasses or these? What do you think? I like these. I like these because they're very bold and they're very prominent, and then they sort of it's giving candy vibes. It's good so long as we can see you, sir. You're very loud and clear. Thank you so much. Loud and clear. Wonderful. Well, hey, guys, I just wanted to hop on here very quickly. First of all, I need to say a very big thank you to many of you. And, of course, I can't name everybody because so many of you were very kind. But I'd love, and yesterday I did say this, and I'll say it again, and please forgive my repetitiveness. I'd like to truly, from my heart, thank my pastors. My wife and I, our pastors, Walker and Haley Schurz from the Miracle Life Family Church. Our church body was very gracious, and they reached out to our family, and I'm so grateful to the church for that. I thank my new lawyers, J&M Associates, and these guys are amazing. They worked tirelessly to sort of get me out of the predicament that I was in. I thank my amazing cousin Mike Mumba, who I think is a magician. You know, he has to be a magician because some of the things he pulls, I tell you, unbelievable. So I want to say thank you to my cousin Mike, who's always been there for us and for me, and I love him dearly. And I want to thank my wife and my children. And they've just been so gracious and so loving and so protective. And I will forever be grateful for that. Alrighty, so guys, now as you know, this case is an ongoing case, so I can't really talk too much about that. The only thing I can say, though, is that no right person in their right mind goes around slashing tires with a knife. Okay, just know that. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. All right. So I have to tell you, the day that I went to court, the last day of court, because many of you know I was in court for 3 months over this case, and I'd been going to court, you know. I didn't hire a lawyer because I thought this was an open shut case. I thought, in my mind, it was a simple case. Well, it turns out it wasn't so simple, because on the 9th of January, which was Judgment Day, I woke up that morning, and for those of you that are my TikTok participants, you remember that day. I woke up as I usually do. I do my live TikToks, and I was going to the courthouse to hear the judgment, to hear the verdict. And I was standing in the dock, and as you know, when judges finally draw their conclusion, when they come to a verdict, they literally go through the whole case once again. So, you know, you're sitting there for a good 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on the length and the gravity of your case. And you're sitting there and you're listening to the judge. He's talking, giving points. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, the judge is going to be done here in about maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then we can go home. Well, it got to the part where the judge now seemed to hint that this was not going to go my way. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, this doesn't sound good. I mean, the direction that the narrative that he's going through doesn't sound like this is in my favor. Finally, the judge says, therefore, I find you guilty. And I'm standing there thinking, what? Guilty? I kid you not, I felt lightheaded. My knees started to buckle because I'm standing there facing the judge. And then he says, I find you guilty. And then he says to me, is there anything you'd like to say in litigation? In mitigation, not litigation. Is there anything that you would like to say in mitigation? Now, I know what mitigation means, but in that moment, I totally forgot what it meant. I turned to the judge and I said, Judge, what the heck does mitigation mean? So he turns to me, you know, and this is Judge Fine Mayambo. You know, he's a judge over there at the magistrate's court. Very serious judge. He looked at me and he said, Mr. Mwewa, mitigation means, is there anything that you'd like to say that will help me make a decision about how to met out the punishment that I have in mind for you? I didn't know what to say. I went completely blank. The only thing I could think of was what I read in the paper. When people say things like, no, this is my first offense, I have a family. So I said that. I blurted that out. I just said, well, this is my first offense and I have a family. The judge looked at me and said, Mr. Mwewa, is that all? Is that it? I said, yes, sir, that's it. He says, okay. So he writes, you know, then he says, all right, I sentence you, this crime that you've committed, Mr. Mwewa, carries a maximum sentence of 2 years. I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to give you 6 months, Mr. Mwewa. Starting today, you can appeal if you want. Bang! Next case. I'm standing there and I'm thinking, 6 months? Judge, I got a meeting at 12:30. What are you talking about, 6 months? I literally, I kid you not, I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly what went through my mind. I almost raised my hand. I said, Judge, I can't be here for 6 months. I got meetings, I got things to do. So, you know, not the marshal, the bailiff, you know, the cop in there, he sort of, and the court marshal, they signaled to me to sit down. So I'm sitting down, I'm with my phone, completely blindsided. It's one of these things that I'm sitting there thinking, am I dreaming this? Am I in a dream? Is this an alternative universe? Please, if this is a nightmare, I want to pinch myself. I need to wake up because I can't be here. It was real. It was real, and it didn't matter what I did, didn't matter how much I pinched myself, I was still sitting in that dock. After a few minutes, the police officer, you know, first of all, the judge sort of rises, the court rises, and the judge leaves. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, what's going to happen next? The police officer comes over to me and says, okay, Mr. Mwewa, let's go. So, you know, as it is, you know, when you stand up, you go down this little tunnel. There's a little tunnel underneath the magistrate's property. It's a long tunnel. I mean, you get to the bottom and you look at this long tunnel. It's so long, it looked endless. And the whole time I'm walking through this tunnel, I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing here? So I turned to the police officer. I said, what's going on? Where are we going? The guy looks at me and says, Mr. Mwewa, you're going to prison. Prison? He says, just follow me, you know. So I follow him. We go up to a spot where I have to give up my bags and my property and stuff. And then the police officer says, okay, we're going to transport you to either Chimbokaila or Kamwala remand. I said, Chimbokaila. What? Kamwala remand? He says, yeah, you're going to have to wait in the cell there. So they put me in a cell with, I don't know, 200 juveniles. I mean, these are kids that just don't, seems to me like they don't care about life. They don't care about tomorrow. They don't care about anything. They put me in this cell with about 200 kids. And they start, these kids, you know, they walk up to me and they say, so Mr. Mwewa, whatever happens here, Kukamwala remind. I said, it's not remind, it's remand. He says, whatever, Mr. Mwewa, whether you remind or remind, you just tell these officers to take you to Kamwala remind. Osa ina kuchimbogaira here. Kuchimbogaira simzagona. So, you know, I get scared. I asked the officer, I said, where are you taking me? He says, well, we'll tell you where you're going. And then another guy comes up to me and says, no, Mr. Mwewa, don't go to Kamwala. Kukamwala kuria, they are full of juveniles. Muzapeza vimajanki fulu. Edo baraba icheta ba kwatana muchinji. So, ama officers mubebe fiati mulombe. Kuti bwana ine muntu ale kuchimbokaira. So I got confused. I said, well, what do I say? Where am I going? One guy says to me, go to Chimbokaira. Another guy says to me, go to remand. So I walk over to the police officer. I said, officer, what gives? Where am I going to go? He says, Mr. Mwewa, we will take you where the system takes you. Just sit tight. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to be all right. So I'm sitting in the cell. Finally, the time comes for us to be transported from the magistrate's court to the prison system. Now, at this stage, I don't know where I'm going. Okay? So there's this vehicle. It's a box. It's called the Kasalanga. Is it Kasalanga? It's a vehicle that transports prisoners. The most inhumane, the most draconian, the most barbaric, the most dastardly, damnable machine I've ever come across in my entire life. This vehicle that is supposed to transport, it's got two compartments, okay? Two compartments. Each compartment can hold comfortably about maybe 10, 12 people. Oh no, not the Zambian prison system, honey. Zambian prison system wakes up and says, no, man, I know there's supposed to be 12 people in there, but stuff about 30 people in there. They stuffed us in there. Kwati finama. Mwaishwe nama. Kwati ni mpanya. Tuli 30 muria. 30 people in a little tiny space that's supposed to only hold comfortably 10 people. I'm in there with these juveniles, and ventilation is almost non-existent, okay? It's a little tiny window, okay? And then there are two little vents in the ceiling of the vehicle. Mwari Chipuki, it was so hot I could hardly breathe. I'm sitting by the window, and these kids, they seem to be completely oblivious. I mean, these juveniles it was like they're going on a picnic. You know, they're talking and chatting and laughing, and their body heat that was emanating from everybody's, because we were cramped up in such a small, tiny space. Their body, I could literally feel the body heat. And I'm sticking my nose through the little vent, and I'm thinking, I'm going to die. This is it. I'm going to die right here, right now. They're going to find me completely dead because I could hardly breathe. Now, at this point, two of the juveniles did something that I just couldn't believe. They start lighting cigarettes. I looked at those kids and I said, mwaka befi mulepepa fwako mwaka befi muri chipuki tufwira okuba 10 batubika muri tulisate mwambo kupepa fwaka imwaka walala imwe ushe mwali no more. Those kids looked at me. One of the kids looked at me and said, Mwewa kuno Simosoni. I said, Simoson's got nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with the fact that we are in tight quarters. It makes absolutely no sense for you to light up a cigarette in this environment. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. No, Tuzafika manje manje. You know, we're going to get to our destination soon enough. And the whole time I'm praying, I'm saying, God, please don't let me go this way. Okay? If I'm going to go, no, I can't go like this. I mean, I could hardly breathe. So finally, the Casalanga, they rev it up, you know. They fired it up, and it starts to move. And as it moves, you know, a little breeze comes through there, so you have a little relief. And I'm thinking, oh. So the first stop, because, you know, the magistrate's court is directly opposite Chimbokaila prison. So there's that little tiny drive to Chimbokaila. So the very first stop was Chimbokaila. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't care how bad Chimbokaila is, as long as I can get off of this vehicle right here, right now. It wasn't to be. The Casalanga parks. We're sitting in there for 4 or 5 minutes. The whole time I'm thinking, any moment now, the door is going to swing wide open. A gust of cool air is gonna rush in. I'm gonna get a nice deep breath of cool air. It'll fill my lungs and it'll give me some form of sanity. Are you kidding me? And we sat there for at least 6 minutes. The door didn't swing open. I can hear people in the next compartment disembarking, getting off of this vehicle. Finally, the door closes from the other compartment. And then the Casalanga starts off again. So I'm thinking, they're taking me. Kukamwala remand. And I'm thinking, the ride from Chimbokaila to Kamwala, it might as well have been 100 miles because it was so hot. I'm sitting there thinking, let's just get there, let's just get there. Finally, you know, we start off and we start driving through. The air, you know, is hitting the little window for the briefest of moments. It felt like we were driving for 20 kilometers. It felt so long. So finally, we get to the remand, Kamwala remand. And finally, they crack open the doors. And I was so relieved to just get a breath of fresh air. I came out of that box and I looked at that vehicle and I said, this is atrocious. This is unacceptable. Human beings should not be transported in a vehicle, in a contraption like the Casalanga. If you have any type of ailment, if you have any type of respiratory challenge, it's very easy for you to die in that, and nobody will know. They'll only know after you get to the destination. You know, so we finally disembark. I get out of that thing, you know, and then they usher us into Kamwala remand there, and you know, they take our names. We do all the formalities, and again, I'm still with these juveniles. So finally they say to me, they assign a cell to me, cell 3 in the compound of the remand, Kamwala remand. I get into the cell, a cell that ideally is supposed to house, I would say comfortably, 25, 30 people. Honey, there were more than 70 people in there. Easy. 70, 60, 70 people in there. Packed to capacity. Everybody sleeps on the floor. But what I must say, I must point out, everybody in there was very respectful. All these kids were, they'd greet me and they'd call me sir, Buana, please come through here, take a seat here. And then they assigned me a little tiny corner on the floor to sleep, because as you know, the quarters in there are very cramped. It's like a bunch of animals. I kid you not. I mean, it was like cattle in there, literally stacked next to one another. And the first night's the toughest, no doubt about it. I mean, they march you in there. You don't even know if you're going to sleep I didn't sleep that night. The whole night I was awake. The toilet is, a few steps away from where I was sleeping. So everything that was going on in there, I was experiencing here. It was the most humiliating thing I'd ever gone through. So anyway, the time drew out like a blade. You know that phrase? Time drew out like a blade. It means it was just an hour felt like 5 hours. A minute felt like an hour. Finally, the sun comes up. And they let you out at about 6 or something, 6 in the morning. So they let us out. And one of the officers was kind enough to say, well, Mr. Mwewa, you don't have to sleep in that one. We've got another cell that has fewer inmates. And I think you'd be more comfortable there because the inmates in this other cell are more mature and I think you'd be fine there. So they moved me to this cell where I had a bed to myself. And I met these other guys in there, really, I met a Nigerian guy in there, other people in there, and they all were very kind and welcoming to me. And because I didn't sleep the night before, when I finally was given a bed space of my own, I decided, you know what, I'm going to sleep because I'm tired and my mind is racing. The moment I laid my head down, an officer comes to me and says, Mr. Mwewa, you are going to Mwembeshi. Get your things, let's go. The first thing that hit my mind was, I know how far Mwembeshi is. Because I remember when Dr. Nevis Mumba was incarcerated, I went to see him there in Mwembeshi. It's quite a drive. It's about 35, 36 kilometers from town. The only thing I was thinking of was, what, they're gonna stuff me back in that Kasalanga and we're gonna drive for 35 kilometers from here? This is crazy. The guy says, no, you're not gonna go in that thing. There's another vehicle that you're gonna use. So I get in the vehicle, they drive me to this amazing prison called Mwembeshi prison. Brand new facility. I get there, I couldn't believe it. It was like one of these, it was like in the movies. Everything was new, everything was brand new. So when I get there, the officer in charge calls me to his office and he starts to tell me. He says, Mr. Mwewa, where you have come here, this is just a station. You must understand. Mr. Mwewa, life is made up of twists and turns. Other people have a straight path before they reach their destination. Others, their path winds and curves, ups and downs. But nonetheless, we all have stations. And what you must understand, Mr. Mwewa, is that this is a station. It's not your destination. But you yourself have to decide what lesson you are going to learn whilst you are here. This place will be a benefit to you, and you will be a benefit to this place. So just Let not your heart be troubled, Mr. Mwewa. Just yield yourself to the process. And Mr. Mwewa, always remember that when we judge harshly, don't worry about what people are saying out there. Because those same people who are judging harshly, when you judge harshly, we become hypocrites. So don't be counted amongst those who pay attention to what people are saying. You, Mr. Mwewa, just walk your path. That is all. And lastly, Mr. Mwewa, let me tell you, our relationship, this institution and you, this is a symbiotic relationship. He turns to me and says, Mr. Mwewa, do you know what the word symbiotic means? I said, yes, sir. What does it mean? It means both parties benefit from the relationship. He says, correct. This institution will benefit from you, and you equally will benefit from this institution. So take heart. And by the way, Mr. Mwewa, as you go, make sure you refer to everybody as the Bwana Mkubwa. Here we don't say yes, sir. We don't say yes, madam. It's Bwana Mkubwa. And when you meet the officers, these guards there, make sure your hands are behind you here when you are talking to them. We don't want any sudden movements. You understand that, Mr. Mwewa? So yes, sir. You can go to your cell. So I get to the cell, you know, and it's a nice dormitory, bed, you know, to myself. But the only thing I noticed, there are many things, but the only thing I noticed that is of grave concern is our country is flooded with PIs, prohibited immigrants. You know, we have so many Ethiopians and so many people from Rwanda, so many people from Burundi that are in this country illegally. And I didn't realize that they're... Do you know why? I have to share this with you because this was a revelation to me. It might be a revelation to some of you. But do you know why we have a huge influx of Ethiopians? I had a lot of Ethiopians in my really nice kids. I mean, these are kids, they're, you know, 23, 24, 25, no older than 25. All young men, vibrant young men full of testosterone and an outlook on life. These kids, I didn't realize that the Ethiopians that are coming from Ethiopia through Zambia, down through Zimbabwe, and ultimately landing in South Africa. When I say land, I don't mean by plane. They stuff them in tankers. You know, the fuel tankers. Remember a while ago there was a story of a group of, I think there were 29 Ethiopians that were found dead, buried somewhere. Well, those people come from Ethiopia, and they're oftentimes transported in the most inhumane conditions that you could ever think of. I mean, imagine being stuffed in a fuel tanker for a couple of days. It's unthinkable. Well, when they transport them from Ethiopia through Zambia, Zimbabwe, and then ultimately into South Africa. Do you know why they're doing that? They're going to South Africa to sell kidneys, to sell their organs. Can you believe that? Can you imagine? That is the hustle that's there. So anytime you hear that Ethiopians or people from Burundi are coming in stuffed in these tankers, that's the hustle. The hustle is they're going to South Africa to sell their kidneys. It's a big business. It's illegal. You know, so, and I found that to be quite disheartening. All right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for watching. And once again, thank you for your prayers. I know some of you thought that some of you thought that I went to prison because of what I said about what's his name? TB Joshua. I didn't. I didn't go there because of TB Joshua. TB Joshua doesn't have power to do anything. Okay? Nothing can happen from the grave, much less when he was alive. But I wanted to give you a couple of books. This book is written by a dear friend of mine, and I took this in prison, and I finally finished it. It's called You're Worth the Fight. I'm going to share this book with 3 of you. I'll just randomly pick you, and I'll send this over to you. You're Worth the Fight. This, the Word of God, and a book called Blood Brothers, the relationship between the friendship between Muhammad Ali and the great revolutionary Malcolm X. All righty. Thanks for listening. God bless you. Peace.